Avengers Infinity War is upon us, so I think it's high time that I bring you 18 MCU movies ranked. Hi, how are you? It's great to see you. I'm RazMansReality, here to alter your reality with another video on 18 MCU movies ranked. So if this is your first time here and film, TV, and comics is your passion, then be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring that bell notification icon to be certain that you won't miss out on any of the geektastic fun. Before I get started, be sure to let me know in the comment section down below if you agree with my positioning or if you would have placed any of the 18 MCU films in a different place. Also, if you'd like more fun from me and want to hear my immediate reactions to things, you can check me out on the Stardust app, which you can download on your App Store or Google Play Store, and you can see my reactions currently to the latest episodes of Supergirl, The Flash, and the pilot episode for the Netflix original series remake of Lost in Space. At number 18, I have Thor: The Dark World. I don't think this one requires much explanation, really. It was clearly the worst effort that Marvel has made. It features a bunch of tropes that we've seen in a million other movies. The chemistry between Natalie Portman and Chris Hemsworth is not good, and really to me the only memorable thing about the movie is that the villain was played by the Ninth Doctor, Christopher Eccleston. At number 17 is Iron Man 3. Again, one that I don't think requires much explanation, really, just a mess of an effort. It was a film that didn't know what it wants to be, and worst of all, it took the most iconic Iron Man villain of all time in the Mandarin and made him a joke. The only reason that there's a worse film than this one is because Thor: The Dark World was made. Faring not too much better than the film that would end up following it in terms of the franchise comes number 16, Iron Man 2. While I enjoyed both the villains in this film, and I thought both the films performed fairly well, the fact that both were in it and it didn't settle on one, either Whiplash or Hammer, is the biggest problem of the film. It makes it a narrative mess, and it also, of course, has that trope of, oh, everyone loves Iron Man suits, so let's just put a bunch of Iron Man suits on screen all the time. At number 15 is Avengers Age of Ultron. A truly disappointing film because it featured one of the most iconic villains in the history of Avengers comics, but just was not executed well. The actors were all over the place because they suffered from dialogue that was all over the place, and it's just another example of a Marvel film that in this case just simply didn't know what kind of tone to take, whether it wanted to be a romantic film, whether it wanted to be a serious film, or whether it wanted to be a funny one. At number 14 is Doctor Strange. While I love Benedict Cumberbatch's performance in this film, and the visuals are fantastic, it's just too different from the rest of the other Marvel movies, and it felt a little bit like, okay, stakes are higher now, we've been at this a while now, we know that Infinity War is going to happen, so we have to try to ease people into the idea that there's magic in the Avengers world, and I just thought that it was a little bit too over the top and just could have been edited a little bit more cleanly. So that's why I placed it so low on my list. Coming in at number 13, I have The Incredible Hulk, and this is a film that suffers from the fact that it had a great lead acting performance from Edward Norton, but you could tell at the same time that Edward Norton was frustrated and that some of his vision was not corroborated on by the studio. And when you have that conflict there, it just sort of takes you out of the movie. Plus, the fact that because there was a character change, it also set up some villain work that we haven't been able to follow up on because Marvel doesn't completely own all of the film rights for the Hulk character in solo movies. For those reasons, I had to place it at this position. 12th best film for me in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is Ant-Man. Ant-Man was very, very good. The effects were great. The acting by Paul Rudd is fantastic. Michael Douglas is fantastic in the movie. The only issue really with Ant-Man is just that it doesn't stack up as well as some of the ones that came after it. And one of the main reasons for that is just what I mentioned earlier about tonal shifts, which is what some of the Marvel movies suffer from. When half the time you're being serious and half the time you're being a comedy, it kind of takes you out of a flow in the course of your film. And that is what I believe that Ant-Man suffers from. Oops, that's kind of funny, y'all. I didn't realize that the poster that I had for Thor was one in a different language. So we can have a laugh at that. But yeah, next up at number 11 is Thor. Now, Thor is a fantastic film. Great visuals, good acting for the most part, but again, dragged down by Natalie Portman, who, as much as I love Natalie Portman, she just did not want to be in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it shows. Every time she's on screen, it shows. But Tom Hiddleston, of course, is pure magic. He gives Chris Hemsworth so much to work with. You have tremendous performances from the entire rest of the cast. The only problem with Thor is, again, we're getting to the point in the list where it's getting down to the nitty gritty, and there were great films after it. Starting off our top 10 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Not nearly as good as its predecessor, and the major issue I have with it is just that the story was a little bit unbelievable. Kurt Russell is an ego. He has an ego, but in my opinion, he's not Ego the Living Planet as he was portrayed in the comics. And it just felt a little bit like, okay, Star-Lord is overpowered now because we know that he's going to have a role in Avengers Infinity War. It was just kind of a weird film. That being said, the stuff that Yondu did was absolute perfection, and some of the most memorable stuff in the history of the MCU. That is why it starts my top 10. Number 9 is Marvel's The Avengers, or as it was known overseas, Avengers Assemble. The first time that we saw the whole team together, great performances from everybody all around it. Just a really, really fun movie. Puny God from Hulk when he punches Loki through the wall. Just great, great stuff. But again, because the MCU is so great, it just can't be up any higher, really, when you objectively look at it. Number 8 is the one that started the entire MCU off, Iron Man. I know, I'm surprised too. 8th best. But when you look at what the MCU has done, again, like I've said a bunch of times throughout the course of this video, how amazingly strong is the MCU that this fantastic origin story, arguably the greatest origin story we've ever seen for a comic book character on screen ever, is the 8th best film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But when you look at what came after it, it just is. But you can't say enough about what Robert Downey Jr. did for this character, and he basically made the MCU work. Marvel at the time did not have the rights to some of its more popular, more well-known characters. So if they hadn't been able to make the less popular Iron Man work on screen, then this whole thing would have gone right out the freaking window. So I'm so glad it did, and I'm so glad we're here today, 10 years later, talking about the epicness that is the MCU. Even though is what, in my opinion, is the greatest origin story in the history of comic book film. That's why I said Iron Man was arguably, because in my opinion, Captain America, the first Avenger, is just slightly better. Chris Evans is the absolute embodiment of Steve Rogers. Every other performance in the film is spot on. You never for 1 second believe that he went from a puny guy who didn't know if he was going to be worth anything to the muscular guy that he actually transformed himself into for this role. You never for 1 second don't believe that you're in the middle of the First World War throughout most of this film. And then when it gets to the end of the film and he's brought forth into our world by Nick Fury, the way he sells the shock of it is just, it's just perfection. And the only reason it's not any higher, I'm going to say it 100 more times before the end of this video, everything that comes after it. But Captain America, the First Avenger, is nearly a flawless film. Number 6 is the 18th film in the history of the MCU, which just tells you how strong the MCU has been. And I can put this all the way down at number 6, but what a film Black Panther was. Such a visual feast, unbelievable performances by Marcus Robinson and Michael B. Jordan, just the antithesis of each other. The way that Wakanda is presented, it doesn't take you out of the world for a second. You want to root for this nation and the stakes of it. Martin Freeman, I don't know where Marvin came from, but Martin Freeman in the freaking MCU with a more pronounced role than he had in Civil War. Just unbelievable stuff. And you can't really say enough about it. It's just groundbreaking, and I love Black Panther to death. Okay, now here comes the part where either I'm going to get praised or there's going to be an abundance of nerd rage, because now is the top 5. Beginning with the film that I just previously mentioned briefly, Captain America Civil War. The performances from Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans in this are amazing as leaders of their team. All the other subsequent Avengers really make you believe their arcs. The only thing I really didn't like was Vision and Scarlet Witch. And when I think about it and what came after it, that's one of the main reasons that it's only at number 5, is because I thought Vision and Scarlet Witch just kind of took me out of the film for a little while there. But the connections with all the other characters, the introduction of Spider-Man into the MCU, just everything about the movie, and you believe the pain in Iron Man when he has to separate from Captain America, and when he believes that his friendship with Captain America is irrefutably unrepairable. So just amazing stuff all the way through. You cannot praise Civil War enough. You just have no idea how difficult of a decision it was to have to put Spider-Man Homecoming out of the top 3 of the MCU. But when you look at the 3 films remaining, you just sort of have to, in terms of the performances from everyone on screen. But Tom Holland is the antithesis of my favorite Marvel superhero. Yes, I said it. My favorite Marvel superhero of all time is Spider-Man. Go ahead and debate me about anybody else you want to, but in my personal opinion, the greatest superheroes of all time are Batman, the Green Lantern Corps as a whole, then Spider-Man. Period. End of discussion for me. I mean, not end of discussion, because, well, I'm on a YouTube channel and I'm discussing my opinions and I relish other people's opinions, but you can convince me to have a different opinion, is what I'm trying to say. And I love conveying my opinion about how great Spider-Man is. And like I said, Tom Holland is just amazing in the role. It's a believable high school instead of an annoying one. And the best part about it is Spider-Man, right out of the gate, he's not good. It's not that trope of, oh, this is a superhero movie, so as soon as we get our superpowers, our superhero has to be absolutely amazing right from the get-go. No. You don't see that in this film. And that is the best part about it. Bar none. Period. the best part about it. And Robert Downey Jr. just adds that little frosting on top of the cake. Just Spider-Man Homecoming is so good. Third position is Thor Ragnarok, a film that if it wasn't for one of the two following it would absolutely be the standard bearer for sequels in the MCU. This is how Thor should have been done right from the very beginning. Asgard is tremendous. It's funny. It has high stakes when it needs to. The Planet Hulk stuff between the Hulk and Thor is tremendous. Helena is so believable. Loki is so believable because he'll just turn on you on a dime when it serves him for his best interest. That's who this character is and has always been. And Tom Hiddleston is just a god among human men in terms of an actor, and is just so flawless in the role. I mean, I could really spend another hour talking about Thor Ragnarok alone. It was just one of the most fun things I've ever done going to the cinema, was seeing this film. And that's why I couldn't place Spider-Man Homecoming in the top 3, because this one was here. Number 2 is Guardians of the Galaxy. Be honest, did you have a clue who the Guardians were before they made a Guardians movie? The majority of people watching this video probably didn't. And that is what is so amazing about this film. It was Iron Man done with more than one character. It took a virtually unknown comic property to the masses and made it arguably the coolest team in the history of film. I mean, there's just not enough you can say about the humor, the emotion, the seriousness, the music, the way the music just defines the character of Star-Lord. There is arguably nothing else in the history of modern cinema that has been this good as Guardians of the Galaxy. So why then is it number 2? The MCU made the masterpiece that is Captain America, the Winter Soldier. This is a superhero film that the superhero-ness of the film is just the backdrop. This is like the Walking Dead version of superhero films. This is about the characters and the emotion and the people more than it's about anything that has to do with superpowers. What Steve Rogers goes through in The Winter Soldier, realizing that his best friend, the only person in life that has ever mattered to him, is still alive after all these years, and he's been poisoned by Hydra to be the world's most deadly killer, known as the Winter Soldier. When Cap realizes that the Winter Soldier is Bucky, if your heart doesn't break in two, you don't have one. Period. I don't care what justification you make. If you tell me in the comments down below that your heart didn't break, I will tell you you don't have one. It's that simple. And I have never ever had, nor do I think I will ever have, with the exception of maybe the Dark Knight, but that's another discussion for another day. But I don't think there ever will be another superhero film ever that will tug on my heartstrings the way this one did. If you want to continue to have your reality altered on all things film, TV, and comics, then be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on any of the geektastic fun. And as always, this has been your RazMansReality Check.